Hey everybody, welcome to the Diabetes What to Know Facebook Live series. Tonight we are so fortunate to be joined by our diabetes dietitian, Melinda. And tonight we're going to be talking about snacking and what people with diabetes should know about snacks, healthy snacks, when to snack. Melinda not only has brought her wisdom, but she's also brought some props and some suggestions for snacks as well. So we're so delighted. Melinda, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, I'm happy to be back again. This is great.
So Melinda's actually worked in diabetes for over 25 years. As a dietitian, she worked at the Joslin Diabetes Center for many years, over 25. So you have a wealth of experience of talking with people with diabetes and also physicians about what someone goes through and what people should know. So we're so lucky to have Melinda here. And I'm going to put in a plug right here for our Facebook groups. So we have 2 diabetes communities on Facebook. If you search Diabetes What to Know in the Facebook search tab, those groups will come up and you're welcome to join. Melinda is actually a member of the group and she often comments when people post questions, but there are tons of other people with type 2 who post their suggestions, their experiences. It's an amazing place to learn from other people and get support and encouragement. So I really encourage you to do that. It's a really special place. So let's start off talking a little bit about snacking, kind of from a big picture perspective. So Melinda, what should people with diabetes know about snacking and how to do it well?
Okay, great. First of all, there's no really one right way. Snacking is really important for certain people with diabetes for medical reasons, because snacking can be really helpful in keeping your blood sugar at a consistent level. So which people are those? Particularly if you're taking insulin, especially an intermediate acting insulin. It's not as commonly used, the NPH insulin, but if you are taking that type of insulin, NPH, intermediate acting, you probably are very aware that you need to have a snack sometime between 3 and 4 in the afternoon, because that's when the insulin is working the hardest and you're running a risk of having a low. So the first most important reason to have snacks is to make sure they help keep your blood sugar steady. And if there's times when your blood sugar's tending to go low, you want to have a snack to keep stable.
And but what I hear you saying is that that's most concerning for people who are on insulin.
Who are on insulin.
Okay,
exactly.
Okay. So that's a particular concern for them.
Exactly.
Okay.
Another time that it's really important is that if you are also on insulin or on one of the insulin secretagogues, so that's the sulfonylureas or the glycine medications, that when you are very active and your blood sugar might drop more quickly, partly in relation to the medicine and the activity, snacking, having a snack will help prevent those lows, or over time, several hours later, you run a risk of a low. So having a snack post-exercise is important as well. So we can talk more about that later, but that's another kind of medical reason.
I know we asked some folks for some questions ahead of time, and I know snacking around exercise was a question that a lot of people had. So we'll definitely get into that,
Yeah,
for sure. Good. And I know Autumn actually had that question specifically. So Autumn, we're coming to you definitely.
Good.
So I guess one question is, are snacks necessary? Do we need to snack?
Well, and again, some people, yes, for the medical reasons I pointed out. Another time that it might be really helpful is if you find yourself getting so hungry before meals that you're just overeating at meal times, or sort of, eating a larger meal than you might feel necessary. So snacking, having a small snack in the mid-afternoon or even mid-morning, if you have a really early breakfast, it'll help you have a more moderate meal. So for some people, having what we say like 4 to 6 small meals, meaning some snacks in between, is really helpful to just sort of not have just huge meals. So that's another thing to think about.
Got it. And I guess there's always just, sometimes snacks just, you want
the
to snack.
Joy of food, of course.
Exactly.
It's important.
Exactly. Nothing wrong with that. Yeah. So let's think a little bit. I want to put in a plug here also. On our website, on our Facebook page, we have a guide to healthy snacking that Melinda actually created. It's very colorful and it has all sorts of snacks for low carb snacks, low calorie snacks. So be sure to go check that out when the Facebook Live is over. It's a PDF you can download and print out and save to your computer. It's a great resource and created by Melinda.
Well, I think it's really great too, because I appreciate so much the resources from Diabetes What to Know. It's such a wonderful organization. I'm so proud to be part of it, because they make some of the ideas that I have look really good. And I I just want to point out, all the snacks on there are generally about 15 grams of carbohydrate, and most of them have some source of protein or fat. And one of the things, Ansley, that's important to recognize is that what makes a good snack, it should be about 15 to 20 grams of carbohydrate And by having a little protein or a little fat in there, it'll help that snack last longer. If all you have is a piece of fruit, it'll be digested quickly and you'll be hungrier an hour or so later. So mixing a little fat, healthy fat, and a little protein will help you feel satiated or full longer.
Well, I know that's a really important reason why people do snack is, you want to be able to have that energy boost and feel full longer. And I just want to do a quick shout out and say hello to Susan and Autumn. So nice to have you guys with us. Autumn, we know you have lots of questions and we'll get to them. But talk about, so let's say I don't want to have just an apple because I'll feel hungry later. Would I want to have peanut butter with it? How would I pair protein or fat with that apple to have a snack that's going to keep me full?
Sure. Well, the common protein sources that you think about for snacking might be certainly peanuts or any kind of nuts, and nut butters are convenient because they don't spoil. Boiled eggs, snack cheese, the little cheese sticks, or things like Laughing Cow cheese, a piece of deli meat, or the Greek yogurt. Greek yogurt is really high in protein and only moderate in carbohydrate, depending on how much sugar might be added. So read the label. You're going to see a great variety. I brought a couple of snacks that I might even show. So one of the things that I think is really helpful, I think most people know, of course we can have snacks. The challenge is you open up the pantry, you're sort of hungry, and you stand there and you start eating.
And it's hard to stop.
It's hard to stop. Yeah. So we talk sometimes about mindful eating, and I also talk about mindful snacking. So be intentional. Plan the snack, plan ahead, know what you're going to eat, and eat it with enjoyment instead of guilt, whether it's chocolate or whether it's peanut butter and crackers. So one thing you can do is get these little snack bags that are really handy. You can pre-portion out your snacks for the day, for the week, for whatever. So when you're hungry, you can just go to the refrigerator, the pantry, and grab what you want.
I know a lot of people talk about planning their meals. Yeah. So really what you're talking about is almost planning and maybe doing some snack prep when you're doing that meal prep. So getting these small bags, and so show us some of them.
So this was sort of fun, and Ansley and I were laughing before we went live, because you can either have, a bag full of grapes for about 15 grams of carbohydrate, or about 2 tablespoons of raisins, which, if you want volume, I would go with this. If you just feel you want the little sweet punch that you get in a dried fruit, you can have this.
So, and I know a lot of people with diabetes ask, can I have dried fruit? And the answer is always sure if you keep it in proper portion size. But that does kind of give you a dramatic look at what the portion size difference really is.
Exactly. So, I actually happen to love salty things and crackers. And if the box is open, I will keep going in them. But if I put them in the pre-packed bags, I just know I can grab the bag. And there we go. That's my portion.
So what are those salty crackers? They look
They're
unique.
actually very grainy. They're called Mary's original cracker. Okay. And they happen to be gluten-free. They're filled with seeds, and they're very crunchy. And actually you can have more than the typical 5 crackers you can have that are sort of regular crackers. So, I like volume.
And actually this is also a good reminder, as always, to be checking food labels, right?
Absolutely.
Seeing how many crackers do you get for 15 grams of carbs.
Yeah.
So, yes.
Anybody out there like chocolate? Me?
Me too.
So, I try to come up with ways. On the snack list, we talk about little chocolate kisses. These are actually things that I use in making chocolate-covered strawberries. Some of you might have seen some of the desserts I've posted. So they're just little chocolate bits. These are semi-sweet. And you can have about 14 of them for only 15 grams of carbohydrate and about 150 calories. So if you just need a little chocolate punch, something like that would be good. Or dried cereal, just a whole grain cereal put ahead. Of course, you can never have enough carrots.
No, we want that crunch.
Something like that.
Just 1 second. So let's think about the carrots really quickly. So what would I pair with carrots to give me that protein or that fat?
Good. So I would probably dip it in something like hummus. Would be good. Or avocado, mashed avocado, or a little guacamole. It's not going to have as much protein, but it's got the healthy fat, and that will keep you full longer.
Okay.
So do that. Little mixture. So why do you think I have 2 apples here?
One looks smaller than the other.
Which one is 15 grams of carb? Right?
Wow.
So you just sort of want to pay attention. And if you find yourself, apples are great, but if you're really responsive to the punch that you're going to get from the extra carbohydrate, you want to make sure you're getting a smaller apple.
I want to say really quickly hello to Adrian and Carol who joined us. We're so glad you're here. I know we're just rocking away, but I just want to say hello to everyone who's waving to us online. Yeah. Okay, so show us those oranges.
You'll just hold up two clementines, because they're so small.
You get 2 for 15 grams.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice. Okay.
So that's
I
pretty
feel like
good.
Those are good bargain carbs.
Yeah.
Like, you get
We
a lot
talked
of food.
about Greek yogurt is a good little protein punch. You can even just get the plain yogurt and add some flavorings to it if you want to. Lots of different snack bars on the market. Oh my goodness, I don't recommend any particular one. Just check the label. There's lots of options.
Definitely want to check the label because some granola bars end up having a lot of sugar and carbs. So you definitely do want to check.
Yeah, but there are many options that are about 15 to 20. You know, we don't get too crazy. Now, I know some people have asked about, jerky sticks, dried meat. And actually, they've come a long way in improving the options. And so if you're using this, they don't spoil. And so if you need a little protein punch, this is, no nitrites, which is important.
Very important.
And it does have some sodium, so be aware of that if that's something that you're really sensitive to. But I know lots of people that I know have found this really helpful if they're hiking, walking out, and just need a little bit more protein and you don't have a refrigerator access. This is definitely something to consider. And then nuts, the last one, always easy. Not a big volume because of the calories, but you're going to also have some good healthy fat and healthy protein, so you'll stay full longer when you use that. So
what I love about this system of pre-packaging it out, because I'm like you, I open the jar of nuts and I need to put it in the dish with like, okay, I can have this many. But then you also make a good point of actually being mindful and saying, okay, this is what I'm going to eat, and really taking your time and enjoying the food that you have in front of you.
Right. Try to take the time to eat it slowly. Enjoy the taste. Notice what you're eating. If you're really having something special, like a little dish of ice cream, a half a cup, don't wolf it down and feel guilty. Sit down, pay attention, enjoy the taste. This should be part of the joy of eating. So
that is so true. And I'm so guilty sometimes of just standing and eating and not paying attention, just getting it down. And I love food. I want to like be more mindful and enjoy it a little bit more. And Yolanda, I just want to tell you, I'm so glad that you're finding this helpful. Melinda, people are chiming in the comments and saying how much they're enjoying this. So that's so wonderful.
Good.
All right, last question about your snack packs.
Yeah.
We've talked about 15 grams of carbs, and we know that's important. How should people be thinking about calories when they're thinking about snacks?
Yeah, to be honest with you, some people actually don't have to worry about carbs as much. And I know we talk a lot in this community about carb counting, and for many people it's important. But if you're one of those people that it hasn't been a big deal, don't get worried. You'll know if it's a big issue for you. So for many people, just paying attention to calories is really important. So
you're talking about calories when you say you'll know if it's a big deal for you. You're really talking about calories.
I was talking about
you're talking about carbs. Okay. Glad we clarified.
For some people, you hear say 15 grams of carb, and if you're out there thinking like, I don't do that, don't worry. Don't worry. Mention it to your doctor, your dietitian. We don't teach this to everybody. So I know a lot of the folks in the Facebook community are very focused on this.
Careful,
but maybe not everybody is.
Yes.
So it's not required. Some people's diabetes works really well without counting every gram of carbohydrate. Alternatively, paying attention to calories for many people is really important as well. And on the snack list, we have suggestions of snacks that are just really low in calorie and or really low in carbohydrate. And there are times when your blood sugar's high, or you're feeling like you've just eaten too much, or your weight is high, and you just still want to have something to eat. And that's when it's really good to have the sliced cucumbers, or the little baby grape tomatoes, or the carrots, or the different vegetables. So you have
that experience of eating, but
not spending a lot of calories or carbohydrates.
That is a wonderful point.
Yeah,
so good. All right, so let's transition. Unless you have any more of our snack ideas.
Let's hear some questions.
Well, let's talk a little bit about exercise.
Okay.
Because that was a question that Autumn had, and I want to pull it up as exactly as she said it. So hang on just 1 second. Autumn was saying that she's often hungry. Hold on just 1 second. Let me pull up the exact question. She says she's often hungry around exercise, and particularly at night. When she exercises at night, what can she snack on that's going to help her feel full, but isn't going to raise her blood sugar in the morning? And I know that's a common question. So what would you say to Autumn?
Well, a couple things. You do want to also make sure you're checking your blood glucose level. So you want to see exactly what the exercise does to your glucose. Is it dropping it? How much of a snack do you actually need to bring your glucose level back to a safe level? And remember, if we're talking about before bed, you want to make sure before bed your blood glucose is somewhere between like 90 and 150. That's a goal level. And if it's below 90, particularly after exercising, having an additional bit of carbohydrate is going to be important to bring it up into a level. So when you think about like I'm so hungry, that's when really having some a snack with the protein and the fat in it is going to be helpful
For staying full.
For staying full. So whether that's a small bowl of cereal with milk or just a glass of milk, one of the things about dairy and milk is it's got everything in it. It's got your carb, it's got your protein, and it's got your fat.
So it's like a naturally balanced snack.
Yeah. So I
Nature's
I'm big
goodness.
on kind of the yogurt and the milk sort of thing, especially in the evening, because it kind of covers everything. But it might mean a half a sandwich, it might mean the peanut butter and crackers, it might mean a little bit of the leftover turkey that you had for dinner, but getting in some protein along with some carbohydrate is really the most important thing. But you're replacing some of the carbohydrate that you used in that exercise. So you've used up some of your glycogen and glucose stores as you've been active, so you're replacing some of that back, and then you're adding a little bit more in the form of protein or fat.
That's wonderful. All right, I want to say hello to Kathy. And then, let's see, Jane from Georgia says, my sugar is always high in the morning. Should I be snacking after supper? And I'm asking that question because you just covered that a little bit.
Yeah.
What advice might you give her about snacking after dinner?
Okay. So sugar's high in the morning. So I would say, what was it before you went to bed, if you're checking it then? And also in the context of things, what's your A1C? Because
that is such an important question.
If your sugar's high a couple of mornings and your A1C is generally in target, not a big deal. Your sugar's always going to be a little variable.
That's right.
So keep it in context.
So if your A1C is not above 7 or whatever your doctor's target is for you, an occasional morning high, not the end of the world.
Right.
But let's say that your A1C is above
running
target.
high. And if you really haven't had much, if you haven't overeaten on a dinner, and if your blood sugar before bed is kind of within target, generally a small snack will be digested and used in the morning. And that's not a reason not to have a snack.
Okay.
If it's the night where you had like overdosing on pizza and drinks and whatnot, okay, that's too much.
Right.
But for most people, a small snack, it's going to be digested and gone within 3 to 4 hours. And when you wake up in the morning with a high blood sugar, it's probably not due to what you ate at night. It might mean, it's a signal
Hormones
for
in your body,
hormones,
the dawn phenomenon, other
or
things
the medication is just not the right, if it's consistently high.
Right. So that's a time to talk to your doctor and think about, is it time to adjust medications?
Right. So look at the size of the snack, look at the size of the meal, look at the blood glucose numbers that you had in the evening, and see how consistent that morning glucose is that's high.
When you talk about all the different factors that can make blood sugar, that can contribute to blood sugar, I always think about Crystal Guest, who's in our group, and she calls it being a diabetes detective.
I love that.
And I think that's so
that.
true. So much of the time, having diabetes means being a detective and trying to put together, well, this snack made me high, so maybe I should try this.
Yeah, and never reacting to one thing. You've got to wait for a pattern. If it's high one morning, you don't sort of make a change. But if you see the high in 3 mornings in a row, and okay, now let me start paying attention to it. But I love diabetes detective.
And I want to say hello to Lowell in Iowa. We're so glad you're here with us. To say hello to Vervian as well. Thanks so much for joining us. And I will say, if you have questions for Melinda, please type them in. We're going to try to get to as many of them as we can. So we want to hear what's on your mind, what you want to hear her talk about. But we have questions here. So let's actually hear from Jeanette. Jeanette says, I have type 2 diabetes. I'm not on meds or insulin, and I'm struggling to stay that way. Can I ask, more or less, how many carbs you think I should eat a day? That's a very popular question.
Okay. So the number of carbs for your meal, if you're a woman and your weight is, you don't need to lose weight or gain weight, we say about 3 to 4 servings of carbohydrate, and have to do a little fast math. A serving of carbohydrate is about 15 grams. So that's about 45 to 60 grams of carbohydrate a day. A meal. A meal. And that's just a guideline. Now, if you, like many people with type 2 diabetes, struggle with having too much weight and you're trying to lose weight, then you want to have a little bit less carbohydrate, maybe 2 to 3 carbohydrate servings per meal. So about 30 to 45 grams of carbohydrate. We've been talking about snacks, and if you're wondering, well, how much carb do I have for a snack?
Right.
That would be about 15.
Okay.
And whether that's a snack in the afternoon and a snack in the evening, or just one or the other.
You kind of find your way based on what's happening with your blood glucose and what you're seeing overall.
Yeah.
So actually, Autumn asks another question. She says, how often should we revisit our dietitian? My weight loss has come to a plateau, but my A1C is great, and she always questions why I'm here to see her.
Yeah.
So how often should someone see a dietitian?
Yeah, it's very personal. One of the things that we feel really happy about in terms of insurance for those people that have an insurance benefit that covers a dietitian, and I might point out that the benefit for Medicare beneficiaries, it covers about 2 hours of time with a dietitian after you've had your initial first year of visits.
Oh, wow.
So you might say, wait, my coverage for my insurance could cover up to 2 hours. So that could be 4 30-minute visits.
Wow.
So if you're looking for just support and encouragement and new ideas, recipes, whatever, however your dietitian is helpful, know that you could go a couple of times a year if you find that helpful.
I also will say Melinda wrote a wonderful article for us on the website where she talked about how to find the dietitian that's right for you, and she has a list of really good questions that she encourages you to ask someone before you go see them to decide if they're the right one for you. So definitely go check out that website, that article on our website. Dean says hello Dean, we're so glad you're here. And he says, I love cheesecake, which I think all of us can relate to for sure. And we all do. And I also want to say hello to Noreen from Maine. Jackie asks, how can I lose weight when I just started insulin? That is a great question, and I know one that a lot of people ask.
Yeah,
so what would you say to Jackie?
And you recognize that many people struggle when they start on insulin because it's doing its job of using all the glucose that's circulating in your bloodstream and laying it down, and suddenly, instead of what we say peeing it out in the
lot
urine,
of the excess sugar,
the excess sugar, it's now being used. So while insulin is doing its job, but it's really frustrating because you're either gaining a little weight or having trouble losing it. So it does mean for most people that you've got to decrease the calories a little bit more and increase the exercise a little bit more. And just a word about exercise, and we can talk more about that later. A lot of folks just think walking is enough. And I want to say walking is awesome. It's terrific. But if you can add in some what we refer to as resistance exercises that might involve a stretch band or just pushing your body against a wall to do some resistance, lifting soup cans. It doesn't have to be complicated. You can Google on YouTube lots of simple examples for resistance exercises. That does help maintain your muscle. And your muscle mass, the more you have of that, the more efficiently you're going to be burning calories. And unfortunately,
it's going to raise your metabolism to a certain degree. Yes.
Exactly. And one of the things that we're fighting as we grow older, and every day we grow a day older, is sarcopenia. Have you heard that word?
Yes, we have.
All right, so just the natural loss of muscle mass as we age.
It just happens to everybody.
It just happens to everybody. So another reason to sort of do a little bit more of those resistance exercises. And that will help when we are starting insulin and feeling that it's harder to lose the weight and eating a little bit less.
I will say one other thing about exercise that I've just recently become aware of is a lot of times people say that when they're exercising, they're not as hungry. It can affect appetite in some really positive ways. So that's another reason why it can be helpful if you are trying to lose weight. I want to say hello to Nick in Montreal, a dear friend of the website. So glad to have you here.
I recognize all these names. It's so cool from following it. So, hey, everybody. Right. Exactly.
So Victoria asked a question. She says, I have lost a lot of muscle this last year. Can I regain it back, or is it gone? And that might be a question for, well, you tell me.
Yeah. So you definitely can rebuild muscle just from using the muscle. So that's how you do it. I mean, yes, adding a little bit more protein in the diet help, but having protein powders and protein shakes does not build muscle. You need it in combination with using it and using all of them, using the variety of the muscles, not just the walking muscles, but it might involve you just searching on YouTube and finding someone that you can follow. That personally helps me. I am terrible at just doing the exercise on my own, but when I'm following my favorite person on YouTube videos, and videos that I bought, I do the exercise, and she goes through the whole body. So
and actually, there's some great chair exercise videos
Absolutely.
on YouTube as well. I know Leslie Sansone does great walking workouts if you're living in a place with weather not allowing you to walk outside. So there's just, YouTube is such a great resource.
Absolutely can rebuild muscle.
Yes,
unless there's some medical condition going on that I don't know about.
Right, but for the regular person, for
Yeah.
sure. All right, so I'm going back to my list of questions here. Let's see. Laverne says, I cannot stop a craving for sweets. What can I do?
This can be hard. I mean, it's easy for a dietitian to say, oh, you can still have a little bit. But if you are one of those people that it's really, really hard, and you buy yourself the whatever it is that you love, and you try to just have one, and then you just have another, you might say, maybe I'm just going to go without for a month, a certain period of time, and see how that feels. Does it feel awful? It might for the first few days or week, but then over time it might feel like, I don't really miss it. And then you might start adding something back very small. I often say to people when they say, I crave sweets, and I think to myself, is it sweet that you crave? In other words, if you had a teaspoon of sugar, would that satisfy it? For most people, it's not. It's generally they crave sweets with fat, like in cookie, ice cream, cheesecake, right? That sort of thing, chocolate.
Yeah, right.
But if it's truly a sweet, would a lifesaver do it? Would chewing a piece of gum do it? Often not, but I would encourage, if it's really a challenge and you've tried the traditional things of pre-packing, small amounts of a chocolate or a cookie and allowing yourself that every day, but it's just not enough, try going without completely for
kind of a predetermined amount of time, so you know it's not forever.
I have many of my friends who celebrate Lent and go without something for the month or the 6 weeks,
right?
And they actually think it just helps reset their body, whether it's avoiding alcohol or chocolate or whatever their little craving is, and they really say it does help give them a more healthy attitude towards whatever it is that they are avoiding for personal and religious reasons. So consider that as well.
I love that suggestion. That's wonderful. I know for me too, it does, when you give something up for Lent, the first few days you just think you're going to climb the wall, but then you realize it's just not as important. You almost forget about it in the general scheme of things, and then you're really happy to enjoy it again.
Right.
You appreciate it more when you go back to it.
Right.
That's right. Yes. So that's definitely our experience. So Debbie has a question. She says, what is your opinion on intermittent fasting?
Okay, let me just think. So fasting, a couple different things on that. Certainly, there are many religious groups that are going to fast for different reasons. So if you're Muslim or Jewish, you've got fasting days, not a problem. So that can always be worked in. However, just point out, if you do take insulin or other medications, you just want to make sure you prepare for that and know what adjustments need to be made.
Definitely want to work with your doctor or your diabetes educator on how to make that happen.
Right. It can be done safely. But you're probably talking about some of the different diet trends for weight loss where you go for 2 fasting days a week and 5 days of eating whatever you want to. There's not really evidence that helps. So on the other hand, if it's something that you want to do, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's not necessarily a good thing. And when patients come to me or people come to me and say, I really want to try this, I'll say, try it for a couple weeks and let me know how it goes. The important thing is to keep taking your medicine. It's not a good idea if you're using insulin. Definitely not safe.
For sure.
Right? Because your risk of low blood sugar.
It's really high.
And when you do it, if you are doing it, keep doing your blood sugar checks more often on the fasting days, just to make sure you are not
going low.
Right.
And always do anything like that in conjunction, letting your doctor know, keeping him or her really well informed, right? Because they know what's happening with you.
Right.
For sure.
So there's not evidence that it helps. There's not evidence that it harms unless there's the risk of lows. Do talk to your doctor. And these sorts of things don't really help with long-term healthy eating habits. If this is something that you think will kind of give you the jump start for a healthier diet long-term or a healthier eating style long-term, do that for,
a period of time.
A month or so, and then start working on the habits that you can really stick with.
Wonderful.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely. So Autumn says, I think quitting smoking was harder than giving up sweets.
Yeah.
I can imagine, and way more important for your health. So good job, Autumn. So Nick has a question about exercise, and this was something we wanted to circle back on because this is a really important question. So he says, I have a conflict when I exercise. I cycle, and it causes my glucose to rise when riding. I follow my numbers with a CGM. Oh, hold on. I just lost Nick's question. Nick, do you mind reposting it? But while you're reposting it, I'm going to let's talk a little bit about exercise.
This is amazing, by the way. I'm like boggled.
Technology from Montreal. Nick is talking to us here in Atlanta. So Nick, repost your question and we'll come back to it. But let's talk a little bit about exercise and how to think about using snacks appropriately or not appropriately when we're exercising.
Yeah. I mean, the general guideline for most people, and we're talking about type 2 diabetes, and the differences is a little bit for people using insulin or not, but you want to check your blood sugar before a significant period of exercise. So if you're going for a 20 to 30 minute walk, for most people it's not a big deal. You don't need to add an extra snack to that. But as you're being a diabetes detective and just trying to understand what your routine exercise does to you, it does really help to do some pre and post exercise blood sugar checks to see how it might change. Because for most people, it does drop. Not for Nick, apparently. We'll learn more.
All right, so here's Nick's question.
Well, let me just finish for a sec. So in general, we say that if you're going to exercise for a half an hour or more, you might want a combination of a 15-gram carbohydrate snack plus a little protein, especially if your blood sugar is, when you check it, is below 200 or 150, because it might continue to drop a little bit. Okay. If you're starting to do a walk or something and you're above 200, you don't need any snack at all. You'll be fine. But be aware if you've done something for several hours, golfing all afternoon, or some long-term exercise,
like
hiking, right? Your blood glucose may continue to drop for 6-12 hours after exercising. And particularly if you are having an insulin secretagogue, you are at risk for a low blood sugar many hours afterwards. So pay attention to the need to check your blood sugar longer, and you may need some additional snacks for that.
And when Melinda says insulin secretagogue, those are sulfonylurea medications, so like glipizide, and I'm not going to glymepride, a lot of medications that people take. Yeah. So it's good to look at your medicine cabinet and think about whether any of those medications are ones that you're on. Yeah. Okay, so here's Nick's question.
Okay.
He says rides are typically 2 to 5 hours and high intensity. So wow. So that's exactly what you were talking about. So he says, so I need to take on carbs.
Yeah.
I do so with care. And I often finish a ride in the 7 or 8s. Now, Nick is in Canada.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure.
Times 18.
Can you do that? I think that's around 160, I think. Within the hour, I'm down to a 5 or 4.
Yep.
I try to use real food, such as bananas, but I also use Clif Bars and gels to
great.
refuel as well.
Is
it okay, given my numbers, returning to normal shortly after?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so
don't worry about these little, blips that are above or below, but it sounds like you're learning just how to titrate beautifully.
And I know Nick is on CGM, so he can see exactly what's happening. So you've got the perfect tool to be a diabetes detective and figure out.
That's great.
Excellent.
That's great.
Wonderful. All right, so we're going to wrap up here in the next few minutes. So if you have any questions, I want to say hello to Robin. So glad that you're here with us. One more question that people had asked us in advance. Lori says, how many snacks, and you've talked about this a little bit, but I want to address Lori's question. She says, how many snacks should be eaten during the day? She said, should anything be eaten after the last meal of the day? And actually, this is Lori's best question. She says, should you only eat when you're hungry? That's a lot of questions. Lori, we gotcha.
Well, one of the things to keep in mind, we haven't talked a lot about this, is if weight is one of your primary issues and concerns, you either want to avoid too much snacking, especially if it triggers you to be eating more. If a little bit of snacking helps you eat less at your meal, it might be good for you. So it's a little bit about being a diabetes detective on yourself, because overall you want less calories for the day. Back years ago when I was trained, everybody on a diabetic diet, we don't talk about that anymore, we were trained to put them on 3 meals plus 2 to 3 snacks a day. It was just automatic. And now it's so much more individualized.
So much more personalized.
It's so much more personalized. And many people with type 2 diabetes particularly don't need the extra calories spread out in the snacks. They'd prefer to have a slightly larger meal.
Sure.
So it's a little bit of the trade-off. I noticed that Cindy Lou was reporting recently that she said, I try to save 150 calories from my allotment for an evening snack. And that, for her, works well, and I think that's a great suggestion. So nobody
I
actually...
love that idea of a budget.
Yeah,
You're saving
yeah.
some of your calories to be able to have a snack or a meal you enjoy. That makes so much sense to me.
Right. So it's a little bit about how you like to spread your food out. You know, the answer is, do you need it? You do if you have found yourself running the risk of having a serious low, below 70. Then you want to make sure that you're having a snack so you're not consistently going low. But otherwise, maybe not.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah.
That's a great answer. Thank
Good.
you.
Sure.
So Yolanda asks, are corn tortillas better than flour? And what kind of bread can we eat?
Well, the kind that you like.
That's a great answer.
So in general, I'll do the bread part first. So ideally, you would look something with a whole grain label on it because we want to make sure of the grains that we have, at least half are whole grain. So I know a lot of people on the Facebook communities talk about Dave's Killer Bread is one.
Yes.
I actually personally like it too because they make a thin slice version that's only 60 calories. So if you are someone that is counting calories and counting carbohydrates, looking for a thinner sliced whole grain bread just gives you a little bit more room in your food budget to have other things. So that's the tip on bread. Mm-hmm. And in terms of flour tortilla or corn tortilla, I think it depends on the recipe that you're using. I think they work better for different things. But, you know, in terms of the glycemic effect on it, both of them have a little fat in it. They both have, you know, depending on the size, we say a 6-inch tortilla is about the same amount of carbs as in a slice of bread, about 15. So I don't really have a preference other than what you're using for your cooking.
So really it's not that one is better than the other in terms of your blood glucose at all. It's just really your personal preference and what works for you.
That's what I would say.
Awesome. Yeah. So any last thoughts on snacking, Melinda?
Enjoy food.
Oh, that's a
Eat
great.
Thoughtfully and not with guilt, and you'll do great. Check your blood sugar.
And plan ahead.
Plan ahead. That's 3 last thoughts.
Awesome. Well, listen, everybody, thank you guys so much for joining us. We're so glad that you're here, and we really appreciate you being a part of this community. And again, thank you so much for Melinda
Thanks
for joining us. See you next time. Thanks, everybody.